Okay. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening for the book release celebration and reading from Frank Paino's beautiful book, Dark Octaves. Frank's book was the winner of the Longleaf Press book contest last year. It was selected by Roger Weingarten, and we are absolutely thrilled to have the privilege of publishing it. So, Frank, thank you for trusting us with your work. I know it's been, it's been a roller coaster of a ride, but I think that I know I'm thrilled with it, and I hope that you are too. It means a lot to us that you brought the book to us and that we were able to help you bring it into the world. So thank you all for coming tonight to help us to celebrate the release. Please make sure that you are on mute if you don't have something to say. You can come off mute at the end if we want to do a Q&A. So I'm just going to read the blurb that Roger wrote for the book. Roger chose Frank's book as the winner of the contest, but he isn't feeling super well tonight, so he said he's going to be off camera. So Roger said, "Not since I sat down half a century ago on a bookstore floor with a paperback copy of Alan Dugan's poems have I been so astonished. Like the Bosendorfer Imperial Grand with its 9 extra bass keys, Paino has a supernumerary octave up his sleeve that lends unparalleled depth to this collection." I think that that's a beautiful introduction. I will also read Frank's bio. So sorry, Marcia, I'm going to mute you. Okay. All right, so Frank Paino holds a BA in English from Baldwin Wallace University and an MFA in creative writing from the Vermont College of Fine Arts. Following graduation, he eschewed a teaching career in favor of a non-academic position at a university where he continues to work to this day. He has received a number of awards for his work, including a 2016 Individual Excellence Award from the Ohio Arts Council, a Pushcart Prize, and the Cleveland Arts Prize in Literature. So Frank, it is our absolute honor to host you here tonight, and thank you for sharing your poems with us.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks, Shannon. You in particular have been through hell and high water with me, so I really appreciate it, all you've done for me, and Roger, you as well. And of course, everybody here. I'm not going to pick names, but I'm so grateful to everybody who's here to help me celebrate. A book release is always kind of a mixed bag. There are highs and lows. I've had a lot of lows lately, so hopefully tonight will be a high. I'm dedicating this reading tonight. Oh, I should time myself here. Sorry. I'm dedicating my reading tonight to a very dear friend of mine, Julie Candela, who died back in January, unfortunately before the book came out, but the book is dedicated to her. And off camera, she was cremated, and I've got her, I don't want to freak anybody out, I've got her urn here with her cremains, but this was a ring that was very special to Julie. She wore it all the time, including when she died. And she was a very big lady, so it only fits on my thumb. It's too big for other fingers, but she's going to be on my thumb through the reading. So this is for you, Julie. The first poem that I want to read tonight is an ekphrastic piece. And Shannon, if you could put that Wyeth piece up for me. This is a piece that I'm sure you'll all be familiar with, at least, just in looking at it, you'll be familiar. The subject of this painting was Wyatt's neighbor. Her name was Anna Christina Olson, and she had a degenerative muscular disease, which as it progressed rendered her incapable of walking, and she didn't want to use a wheelchair, so she crawled everywhere she went. So this is as Wyeth has depicted her out in this field. You probably can't see it here, but if you look at the painting up close, you'll notice that her hands are kind of deformed, malformed from the disease process. She's looking out over at this farmhouse, which is largely the focus of my poem. So this is an ekphrastic piece based on this poem called After Wyeth. By now, I'm certain you'll beg for no one. You aren't crawling toward a thing, not the ghost that cannot choose between this world or some other as it fills, then empties the tangled shirt on its frayed line. not the bowed ladder that whispers run as if to spite you, or the narrow tires that furrow an old tale of coming and going. By now, you're merely weary of our undiminished gaze, so you so you avert your unknowable countenance. You who are fierce as a prairie flower, freer than we who move unhalted in our heritable grief. Even the wind won't let you be, undoing your hair like a rumor of fire that will tongue this field between us.
That's nice, actually.
The next poem I'm going to read is I'm trying to give you a sampling of things that I write about. And now I lost my view of all of you, which is highly unsettling. Oh, there you are. Okay, so this is based on the story of Judas and Jesus, however you want to take it. To me, it's always kind of like a caricature when you look at the story as we are told. And I wanted to imagine a relationship between Judas and Jesus that was far more profound and loving than people might assume. So in my imagining, this is the relationship between Judas and Jesus. And this is a triptych, so it's in 3 parts, and I'll pause in between parts. Rabboni, I did not fail to notice the way your hair shone with the gloss of that harlot's fawning, your brow and calloused feet gone slick with oil and kisses, her robes sapphire as summer skies against the slender throat of alabaster from which she poured the spikenard, its musk ghosted with a rumor of something long hidden among a crown of roots and relics. What wouldn't I have done to take her place beside the tattered leather of your sandals? Remember, I did only what you said was ordained before the first blades of starlight were fashioned to shatter unbroken space. Tonight, I turned from your talk of bread and wine, fled beneath the sickle of moon, brilliant as a purse of silver, slouched trembled in hot breeze until your slender silhouette fell across the footpath. I swear all the world caught its breath. Then the taste of your mouth, hyssop, olives, bitter hint of sow thistle. Confess it. Without me, you would have lingered those lightless hours in the garden, fear-fevered, damp with sweat and blood, but unmolested. I did only what was dreamt into your story. Even so, I grant again my fiats. Let me be the scapegoat, cast out and cursed down the ages. Let my ruin be delivered through burn of rope or bowels spilled across a patch of midnight field. Only do not turn your face from me, my lord, you who are the only kingdom into which I ever longed to enter. Thanks. The next poem I'm going to read, I'm really nervous tonight. I don't know why, so sorry if I appear nervous. I am nervous, so there. This next poem is written in the form of a miserere, which for those of you who may not be familiar, miserere means have mercy on me, O God. And it's taken, I think, from Psalm 51, if I remember what I read. I'm not a biblical scholar or believer for that matter. But anyway, it's put in the form of have mercy on me, Lord, have mercy on me, Lord. So this is a miserere for George Floyd. Mercy for the boy behind the counter who accepts the blue-tinged 20. For the fingers that dial this unwarranted destiny. Mercy for the cop who would not kneel in solidarity, now bending his knee to choke back breath. Mercy for the 9 minutes it takes to crush the neck of a Black man. For the dying man himself, whose last words are a prayer to the one who brought him into this life. Mercy for her, already 2 years dead, unable to cradle her boy or kiss his cheek pressed to a street still warm with sunlight's waning. Mercy for neon's indifferent buzz, for spring's gloaming that casts the day's last light without favor, as if there's truth in the myth of equity, as if it falls to each in equal measure. Shannon, if you would not mind bringing up the picture of Father Michael Judge. So this next piece is also ekphrastic, and you will, I'm pretty certain, recognize this photo, this iconic photo taken on 9/11. The firefighters and first responders are carrying the body of Father Michael Judge, who was the chaplain for the New York City Fire Department on 9/11. It was originally thought that Father Michael died in the collapse of the second tower. That, in fact, is not true. He was in the lobby of the second tower, and he actually had a heart attack and died. And these gentlemen are seen carrying him. They took his body to a local church and laid it out by the altar. So he was officially recognized as the first death of 9/11, though clearly he was not. So this is a poem in his honor based on this photograph. And I'm terrible with titles, so it's just called Father Michael Judge. Worse than a conflagration fed by kerosene, than towers turned to their own sudden ruin. Worse than his already waxen hand, its elegant fingers that seemed poised for blessing, is the square of flesh that must not have seen the sun all that long summer, a glimpse of slender tibia over which he'd pulled his plain cotton sock when the morning was still ordinary, still decipherable as a painted allegory where ash stands for dreadful quietude, as in marble made to bear an unbearable grief, or the way men can emerge from a shroud of steel and cinder, hefting the slack weight of the fallen, as if death is a burden they can help him carry. Oh boy. Okay. The next poem I'm going to read, one of the joys of having been raised Catholic for me are all the interesting stories about saints and the different miracles and attributes. And one of the saints that I found particularly interesting is a gentleman by the name of Saint Philin, who I don't know when he lived, sometime in the Middle Ages, I think, in England. And he was a hermit who lived in a cave. And one of the things that Philin focused on, as many Catholics do, is sex. And he was always trying to overcome his longing for a partner, for sex. So he did all these strange penances. And I will mention those in the poem. And one word you may not be familiar with is cilice. That's a hair shirt that people would wear for penitential purposes, and then they would wear a belt around the waist that often had spikes or things to make them extra uncomfortable to mortify their flesh. So this is Saint Philin's story. And again, it's called Saint Philin. Go figure. I came to scour the hollow inside me where desire cradles its sour heart. I have shrugged off the rough surge of my habit, walked bare-skinned through bull thistle and blackberry canes to flay the demon of each coarse longing. Here, where vesper light speaks of heaven's lost horizon, I have plunged my recalcitrant flesh through the river's scrim of ice. I have singed with salt these lips that ached to kiss a woman's breasts, thrust into the hornet's paper lantern these hands that sought to trace a silken back's slight camber. For what is the body if not a curse that must be broken? Come flail, come spiked cilice, come thirst and maddest hunger that renders each bone dry as tinder. And for recompense, my Lord, you have granted the torch glow of my own slow burning, which tongues radius and ulna to 100 candles brilliance, that I might unbind the meaning of your holy word, as in another life I might have lit a nuptial lamp before undoing the soft laces on my bride's pale wedding dress. Thank you. Okay. Shannon, if you don't mind bringing up that last image. This poem is about, we use the term banks and the like. I think you know what I'm talking about. This guy is a real badass. His name was William Walker, and from 1906 to 1912, this guy was working under Winchester Cathedral in England. The cathedral was literally falling down around him. They drilled 235 wells, piles, and this guy would go down every day. You see those boots that he has on. He has 200 pounds of gear on. When he would land in the water at the bottom of those tunnels or pilings, it would disturb the water such that he could not see. So this man was working 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, 20 feet underground, underwater in the pitch black, working by feel alone with an entire cathedral literally about to collapse above him. And making him even more badass, this guy rode his bicycle 70 miles every weekend to go home and be with his family. So that's a badass. And this weight of the cathedral, its ancient back, hangs above him like a kingdom that will surely fall. And still to seal the brass bell against water's breathless intent, to be tethered and dropped past 20 feet of chalky marl and peat, sunken medieval timbers that groan like the damned in their infernal dungeons. To see nothing before or behind, so each searching finger becomes his only salvation. Here, the lax underbelly that means to swallow 100 graven saints. Here, the rope that leads to the ladder that leads to the light. Suffer 6 years of this measured rising, rung by weary rung, to keep his solitary watch, restraining unwearied tide, bending his back to the insufferable next and next, each pallid sack of concrete a paschal flame snuffed as the flood pool closes around it, even then to carry on through the fallen black. Okay, so that was faith, and this next poem is about someone who is searching for faith or questioning. So I'm referring to an agnostic, and this poem is called The Agnostic's Prayer, and I don't think it needs any explanation. Oh, you about whom much is said, but none for certain. Are you the glint of evening copper that sets the river's face aflame? Or the smoke gray shadows that lengthen across the backlit transept of my father's riddled lungs? Is it your voice I hear in the indigo throat of the bunting? Or do you speak in tongues of flame that turn crop fields to cinder? Do you incense autumn wind with the must of grapes plucked from the vine? Or is your breath the roil of earth and mud that flattens cities when the levees finally crumble? I taste you in the gold of honeysuckle sipped, or in the tang of venom formed from the wound. Is it your finger that breezes the plane of my chest when I step into summer's first shirtless dusk? Or will the fury of your fists one day pound my heart to stillness? Oh, you who may or may not be all or any of the above, I attend at this strange equator that divides if from is, I am from I am not. I seek, from I have found. Okay, how I'm doing on time. Okay, 17 minutes, I'm doing okay. The next poem I want to read for you, another kind of poem I like to write, is poems about animals and insects and all kinds of things. And this is another greatly titled poem. It's going to give you a clue. It's called Luna Moth, and it's about a Luna Moth. So here we go. This is about the life cycle, I should say, of the Luna Moth, and it's really kind of fascinating. We'll know two kinds of hunger. The first, a smaller sadness, a reciprocal thing that bends the stave of your long green days towards splayed leaves of sweet gum, fronds of walnut, and smooth sumac that will invoke, after long weeks of exhortation, your exquisite metamorphosis. This is the hunger that drives you to feed without ceasing, not as if you cannot get enough, but simply because. The hunger that will make you spin around each viridian segment of yourself, a silken winding sheet, so you become your own still shade, sealed within that artifice, a single leaf from the tree in whose branches you will sleep until you wake to a strange annunciation that splits along the hardened seam of your solitude, calls you back into a world of night, your mouth not sealed, but disappeared, like the brief arc of a falling star. What's left will be the lot of every hungry ghost, a second hunger that will exchange your sawtooth mandible for seafoam wings, whose blind eyes face the stolen light of your namesake moon, while you drift, insomniac with desire, through the 7 dwindling nights that are your destiny. Two more. Oh, 3 more, sorry. I never know if that's a good thing to say. Like, are you thinking, oh, thank God he's only got 3 more, or oh no, he's only got 3 more. So I'm going to let that just float out there. So I'm being silly, but actually, this next poem is very serious, and it's very timely given our current administration's attack, desire, it seems, to erase LGBTQ people. And especially trans people. And this is a poem about a friend of mine named Tony, who was trans, and he ended up committing suicide by self-immolation in Balboa Park in San Diego on Halloween of 2020. And obviously that's had a big effect on me. But there were many reasons for it, but one of the primary reasons was the hatred that was shown to him by people because he was trans. And he was probably literally the nicest person I have ever met. So that's just heartbreaking. And this is one of the poems that I've written for him. It's called Where There's Smoke. Smoke means the way you looked the last time I ever saw you, bare-chested above the raised. Sorry, I'm going to start over. Smoke means the way you looked the last time I ever saw you, bare-chested above the bay's ragged thunder, back pressed against the scuffed bridge rail, scars so bright it seemed you were already burning. Smoke means a rabbit might flee or set itself in stone, means white semaphores, deer tails, cicadas buried beneath roofs, waiting out the years before their single season of song. Smoke means embers adrift in the shifting breeze, means a far-off mountain that gabbles its wet canticle of before we were born. Smoke means the right words will always fall stillborn. Where there's smoke, something's vanished. Where there's smoke, I'll always see you stepping through the dewgrass that late October morning while our hemisphere tilted toward a longer dark. Then gasoline, then lighter, then you in your shirt of flames. Two more. Uh, First poem is going to be about my mother. Second poem is mostly about my father. The poem about my mother is called Daphne again. And um, in it, I refer to a river burning. And for those of you who don't live in Cleveland or know about it, Cleveland, especially back in the late 60s, was kind of a joke in the country because the Cuyahoga River was so polluted that it caught on fire a number of times. Most notably, I think it was in 1969. This was just the beginning of our really the beginning of our environmental crisis, and now where we are today. So that's what I'm referring to about the river burning in this poem. And again, it's called Daphne again. Oh, I also refer to a weeping katsura, which is a kind of tree. After the fire, after the simple division of flesh from bone, bone from ash, we took what remained of you, poured it like mercy beneath the weeping katsura, while crows wheeled, beaks stained with plundered berries, and the monuments behind us crouched, heavy with old griefs. Once, not far from that place, the city's river burned like a requiem for the old gods. But today, men tend the oar boats, flick their cigarettes across the water's surface with brusque impunity. Mother, I no longer believe anything to be impossible. I have seen a river put on a cloak of flame. I have seen you turn from flesh to something unyielding as stone. From cinder to ash, the worms will turn to leaf the tree. Okay. And this last poem is, oh, thank you, is called Dirge. And I don't think I need to say anything else about it. I have seen monks burning in their saffron robes for days, coaxing sand from flutes of silver while they bend over floors or low tables, smooth as their solemn faces. Like earth before it opens, I have heard them hum, tap kaleidoscopes of sand into scintillant galaxies I long to fix in their mad spinning. Though the monks will finish, rise, circle that intricate perfection with brushes to ghost the world into glittering ruins they'll sweep into glass vessels, carry back to the sand's restless maker. All the while, that thrum still thrumming their throats as if to say, return to the river, to the sea. The same wordless mantra I caged inside my lungs as I watched my father gather his last throatful of breath. Go the way a soft-mouthed retriever will drop a fallen hatchling unharmed at his master's feet. A leaving so gentle I couldn't be certain he'd gone until twilight swallowed the horizon. A lightlessness that found its level on either side of the hospital window before I opened my fists and found I had nothing to hold on to but his feet going cold. And my heart, the fierce insistence of its dirge. You have chased the wind all of your days. Your hands have always been empty. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank. That was extraordinary. It was good for my heart to hear those poems today. Thank you for
Thank you.
them, for your testimony. Absolutely. I want to mention that if anybody has not gotten a copy of Frank's book yet, and I mean ordered a copy because we were the spine gave us the most difficulty, but I think we finally got it figured out. And so those books I placed the orders to have those sent out today. So those of you who have already ordered the book, thank you very much. Those will be coming to you in the next week or two. So thank you for your patience on that because we were getting the spine issues fixed.
Yeah.
It took us several tries, but we got it, I think. And so you can get a copy on longleafpress.org. And I encourage you to do that. So thank you all so much. We do have some time for Q&A. So if anybody would like to offer comments, questions, so on and so forth, please feel free to come off mute and say what you have to say.
Hey, Shannon, in the meantime, I kept meaning to say, or this to all of you, I guess, and even though I loathe the man, Elon Musk, loathe is hardly even the word for it, but I kept thinking about all the things that kept happening with this book and his rapid, unscheduled disassembly of his rockets. And that's what I kind of felt like this book was just this rapid, unscheduled disassembly, which has finally resolved itself. So there's that.
Well, thank you for your patience.
Reading, Frank.
Thank you, Roger.
We had so many people popping off in the comments. I can't type and comment at the same time, and so I tend to
I can't see the
refrain.
comments, so when I'm
I
not
tend to refrain
screen.
from the chat, but oh yeah, there's a lot of comments that are quite beautiful. So I can send you that transcript later if you want. But if
Okay.
anybody who, if anything in the comments in the chat resonated with you, or if you have any questions or comments yourself, please feel free to share.
Hey, Shannon, I wonder what it would be like if everybody sound was on through the whole thing, uh, so that we could applaud and howl. And
Oh,
so what would
that's
happen?
a terrible idea because
I agree.
Yeah,
I have been
I'm
in meetings.
replete with terrible ideas.
Listen, I was in a meeting the other day where somebody told somebody else they thought that they were on mute and they were not, and they like cussed out. I don't know if it was a pet or a but it was quite bad, and it interrupted the middle of the meeting. So
Oh,
yeah, and I mean, and then you'll have things like phone calls going off and things like
okay.
that. So yeah, having a whole bunch of people off mute in the middle of a meeting can go horribly awry, which is why we why we
Yeah.
keep on mute. But I agree with you that the silence can be strange. And even Frank, when you were saying, "Oh, I feel nervous tonight," I wanted to come off mute and tell you not to because you were killing it. But also, it didn't feel like the appropriate moment because right after that, you read a very serious poem, and I thought, okay, let's just like let's let it. But you did wonderfully. Yeah.
Thank you.
David,
David,
yes.
brother.
Yes. I had a reading this past weekend, and a question that kind of occurred to me that we answered then was, Frank, what was it that started you down the path of poetry? What was your origin story?
That's a good question, David. And I actually have an answer for it, which is unusual sometimes for me. Um, so I had one of those really, and this was after a long hiatus, and I had returned to college, and I was like in my mid-20s or whatever, and I was reading William Morris. And William Morris basically said that people should take it upon themselves to create their own art. And being naive, I thought, oh, poems, that's easy. So I proceeded to write like 10 or 20 poems a day, right? That's how I got started. So it was because of William Morris. And then things just kind of fell into place where I got a wonderful teacher who then introduced me to other teachers, and so it went. But it was literally that quote from William Morris that got me started. I wanted to do something easy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Can I say something? Oops. Hi, I just wanted to,
Oh, should I? I feel these poems are very close. There's a broken heart in every poem. It's beautiful, but the heart is broken. It's incredible, Frank. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That was very kind of you. And as well, and accurate.
Deborah, you were going to say something?
yeah, I was going to say that I wrote a review of Frank's last book, Obscura, and it's in the South Florida Poetry Review, and I'll put the link in the chat.
Thanks, Deborah.
I love the reading.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
Frank, I know a lot of people, poets, branch out into like essays and nonfiction. Have you ever went that route with anything that you've written?
Um, when I started writing when I was a kid, I actually wrote horror stories. I remember being in a classroom. I was probably like, I don't know, it was grade school, and I remember reading a story to my fellow students about someone sticking their hand in a garbage disposal. So I started off with these strange horror stories, and I liked Stephen King, that sort of thing. And then so I wrote, short stories, like short horror stories. And then I started writing poetry, and now I have done a few experiments with lyric essays. So I'm definitely considering that. I'm always writing in my head, and I write letters, I write all sorts of things. So I to other directions. I think that was a horrible answer, but sorry.
It was great, man. We'll be here for that as well.
Richard, go for it.
Yes, Frank, so good to hear you read. I've been a fan for quite a while now. And I notice in this group of poems, I don't think I heard the word I in any of the poems. Is that a conscious choice that you remove yourself from them?
Yeah, well, actually, there were a couple of poems where I did refer, use that, I referred to myself as I in my poem to my mom and my dad. But you are absolutely correct. I very infrequently write about myself. I find other topics a lot more interesting than myself, and I find it's easier to explore subjects at a little bit further remove, maybe. But yeah, I'm just not really into autobiographical stuff. I will sort of be in the future, who knows? But right now, I'm pretty much disinterested.
But I think at the same time, even though there's not a predominance of the first person singular, the poems are felt, and that communicates to the reader. So there's another poet whose work I love, Linda Beards,
Oh,
who has spent her whole career never using first person singular as
excellent
well.
choice. Yeah.
But I'm just saying your presence, which is your soul's presence, your heart's presence, really communicates in that work.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I say, whoop, am I mute?
No, we hear you.
We hear you.
Thanks. I think the reason Frank's soul communicates is that he has poems full of images and beautiful sonority and lacking in abstract exposition in the poem's soul.
Well said, Mary.
Michael, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I would love to say something, and that something is thank you, Frank, for these incredible poems, for your poetics of generosity and empathy. Every poem of yours I've read starts with empathy. And it's empathy for the reader, there's empathy for the self, there's empathy for whoever is in the poem. And that's such a rare and marvelous thing. And these new poems are no exception. I loved hearing them. I love the precision with which you work. And I, I love that poem about your friend Tony.
Mm-hmm.
That heartbreaking poem. I did a close reading of it some time ago that I sent out on my Substack. I just popped the link in the chat if anyone is interested. That is a poem that I will carry with me forever. And the witness that you bear in that poem is so vital and so meaningful. So thank you for that.
Oh, Michael, thank you. Thank you sounds so silly, but I mean that from my heart. Thank you. You've made my night. Yeah.
So good. Steve?
Hi, Lynn.
Hello? I just want to respond to these questions and your responses, Frank. And my response is really just one word: yay. I love how large and deep your poems are. I love how far they reach out into the world. And I love how sonorous they are. I know you work on the page. This is the first time I've heard you read, but the language itself is just as gorgeous as those thought-filled images. It was a great reading. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Suzanne, because the music is everything to me. So the music and the images. So thank you so much for saying that.
I have a question over here. I'm not sure how to ask it, but as someone who also grew up Catholic, your poems are obviously infused with a lot of Catholicism. How do you think your poetry would be different had you grown up not Catholic?
Oh, I mean, it would be completely different. That has such an effect, not only on the stories that I tell in poems, which obviously are somewhat given to me and often then imagined, but using a springboard. But Catholicism is my whole life. I am not a believer, but I am raised Catholic because it's just given, I call it strange perspectives, and I don't mean that to be insulting to anybody who may be Catholic or any sort of a believer. I just find it puzzling, let's say. But nevertheless, there is, especially if you read some of the mystics, like Catherine of Siena or Julian of Norwich, those people I think were onto their, yes, they were Catholic in name, but I think they were onto something much bigger than the kind of silly, confining stories that we often get when we're being as Catholic kids in a Catholic school anyway.
So would you call yourself ex, former, lapsed, or bad?
Well, that's a cool question. I don't think I ever really believed. So, yeah,
so bad Catholic.
Bad Catholic, yeah, exactly.
That's what I am too. I recognize it in others.
Very good.
All right, shall I take us off recording?